Hello, this is Real World Audio, and today I'm tackling a very crucial subject, very central to all audiophile, and it is about high fidelity. A couple of months ago, someone asked me about what would be today the current definition of high fidelity, what would be the metrics for it, and I was thinking about that a lot, and I really made like a really long presentation series, like going back to the early era when the term high fidelity was coined, and then we started using high fidelity, and later on during the ages how that changed and what sort of measurements are associated to it, and later on what kind of terms we started to use to uh, really talk about certain levels of accomplishment for a stereo system to be able to reproduce sound at a high level, and what do we call that, what are the metrics for that. But I was not really satisfied and happy with it, because I will say that measurements are not telling us anything about sound quality, and we cannot approach high fidelity through numbers alone. Uh, Now I will be quoting loosely John Atkinson. He has been working for Stereophile for many decades, and he is the number one authority on telling you about measurements about high fidelity, because he is the man who made most measurements for high fidelity gear, for audiophile gear. And what he is telling about the subject is that measurements will tell you with almost absolute certainty that what, for example, looking at loudspeakers, that the loudspeaker you are measuring, based on the measurements, you can tell whether it's a bad loudspeaker or a good loudspeaker, whether it has serious flaws or it doesn't have flaws and problems. So that's what measurements are for. So if we want to define high fidelity with measurements, we really can define that is that specific piece of equipment, let's say loudspeaker, is it broken or is it able to reproduce quality sound? But if we use metrics, this is the only question. So with measurements, we can only establish a baseline, that whether it meets minimal criteria or not, and we cannot do anything beyond that. And John Atkinson said that we can use measurements to differentiate between bad sounding gear and good sounding gear, but between good and great there's no measurement. And that's not because it defies the rules of physics, but it's because our measurements, what we use, they are not developed to establish sound quality. They were really established to uh, tell, to query whether something is working as intended or is it broken. That's the extent of what information the available measurement standards can give us. Of course, we can devise measurements that do much more than that, but what we have as measurements are incredibly simplistic. They use artificial systems. They are not telling us the sonic qualities of the equipment being measured. So for today, what we would have a standard for high fidelity, I will go through that in a series in the future. I promise that I will come back to that. However, what we, all of us audiophiles, want to know is whether a piece of equipment is it high fidelity, the way we think about high fidelity, that it tells us that it's able to produce music at a more elaborate level, you can get more out of it. You can enjoy greater, more nuances, and it approaches more real life. It carries more emotions. It's more foot tapping. It has all of those qualities that real life music has. And to establish that, I have a much better metrics than trying to figure out any numbers, because people are smart. We are trying to figure out all sorts of measurements, new ways to measure stuff, and some of them work, some of them don't work, but all of them, when they work within a limited set of criteria where that measurement was developed for, and we cannot expand beyond the scope of the measurements capabilities. So if we want to really know what our system is capable of, what is the true level of refinement of a system, we have to look elsewhere. And now I'm going to give you guys the Brandon Acker test for fidelity. And you can, with this test, you will be able to tell whether your stereo is absolutely low fidelity, or it's like level 2 fidelity, level 3, and level 4. These are just my things that I just came up on the spot, but it's not totally random. It's the Brandon Acker level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. And I think some of you are hopefully acquainted with the name Brandon Acker. He is a guitar player and he has a YouTube channel. So let's a few of his videos here. And so that's him, Brandon Acker. And this is the YouTube video that I'm recommending as the new standard for testing your audio gear for fidelity. And basically what he is doing here in this video is that he plays these 4 guitars, and you can hear how they sound like. There's a person who is introducing all these guitars, tells the story behind them, and then Brandon, he plays each of them and he gives us his impression. How does it feel for him as a musician to play those guitars? And then you can tell for yourself what you hear about that. How you hear those guitars. Can you hear the difference between them? And this, in this example, they are taking 4 guitars, and there's like a price tag given for each of them: $200, $2,000, $20,000, and $200,000 price tag guitars. And I don't want anyone to get hung up at the exact number of dollars tagged to each guitar. It really represents a different level of craftsmanship. So the 200 level guitar, it represents something that looks like a guitar and almost sounds like a guitar. And it's something that you would buy first, just to figure out that do you want to start learning the guitar or maybe not. And if not, then you haven't wasted much money on it. But the $2,000 guitar, it's something that, wow, R&D has much greater capabilities. It sounds like a real guitar. So it has a resonant quality to the sound. It has a high frequency extension, and it has a beautiful sound. And I'm not, and here I'm introducing a little bit these guitars and the levels between them, because this is also representative of audio systems. So when we have the level 1 system, that's just the bare minimum stereo equipment that is basically able to reproduce sound. And it's at the level that it can play loud, it has a lot of bass, but not much more than that. And I want you all to listen to this video, because this might be life-changing for you, because I want you to hear for yourself. Can you hear the difference between these guitars. And I got something for you that first of all, if you can hear the difference between these guitars on your stereo system, then your stereo gear is able to give you much more than just a basic stereo equipment. If all of the four guitars, they kind of sound the same to you, maybe a tiny bit of difference but not much, then it means that basically you have a level 1 system with a refinement capability to give you what a bare bones almost guitar can provide you. Maybe that stereo gear plays very loud, has tons of bass, a lot of impact, power delivery, but as far as refinement and being able to give you the experience that you experience at a real concert, it's not going to give you that, because a big part, to me at least, and all, to all my friends who go and listen to concerts, a huge part of it is the instrument that the musicians are playing, that they are beautiful sounding instruments, and not that $200 cheapo violin or guitar that you can find at the pawn shop to buy for yourself if you're just picking up an instrument and trying to get a few sounds out of it, you know. But it's the ability to listen to a beautiful instrument, and and there was the level 1, which is just looks like a guitar but it's not really a guitar. Level 2, which is something that most of us who are just like a hobby player, if you want a guitar at home, like that $2,000 category, that's like a nice sounding. It's everyone who hears that, wow, this is a guitar and it sounds pretty good. uh, that's what you want to get. So it has like loads of qualities. I would say like that's the audiophile level in the universe of sound. So now it's able, if your system can make a clear distinction between those two, then I would say it's an audiophile system. But also it's not just your system, it's your ears too, because a lot of us just go to concerts, and whether the guitarist maybe is Narciso Yepes, maybe he's playing a $200 guitar, or Andre Segovia's guitar, and you just, wow, he's playing guitar, what the hell. So there's loads of people who can't hear any difference between these instruments, and I think that's really critical for you to know, can you hear the difference? Because if you can not, don't beat yourself up about it. Just know that you don't need to waste any time whatsoever on finding out better and better stereo gear, because you will not be able to hear the difference that they bring to the table. So if in real life you can't hear the difference, then you won't hear the difference in reproduced music either. And that's why it's crucial for you to have these real life experiences. If you have a friend who plays instruments, ask them when you are at their house to like I have my friend Tartos who plays guitar, and he has like a dozen different guitars, and I asked him like several times to just play multiple of his guitars, and once he played all of his guitars like one after the other, and they sound drastically different. And there's also like a marked difference between the levels of the guitars. And even though he doesn't have anything like that $200 category, like he has a much more refined instruments going to the stratosphere, but within those guitars there was still like a really wide range of a guitar sounding like a wonderful guitar, or sounding like, wow, now it transported me to the universe of sound. It's just, so let's go back here what these guitars are. So basically we had level 1, which is the bare bones, level 2, which is like that's the camera, So level 2, which is like the beginnings of a beautiful friendship. Now it sounds like a real guitar. Level 3, that's a guitar, that's a replica of a famous guitar, and that just sounds absolutely fantastic, absolutely fabulous. It projects the sound. Brandon is saying that it's a joy to play that guitar. It just plays itself. He doesn't need to wonder about his techniques because it just plays itself. It's just amazing. As a musician, it breaks the limits of creativity for you, and you can just give much more to the audience with that. And you, the audience, also can really get much more from that guitar, from that instrument. And then there's the level 4. That level 4, that's, we are talking about unique guitars, that there's only one in the world. For each, they have their own voicing. If you break it, that's it, it was gone. No one's going to bring back that exact sound anymore. These are the guitars like Narciso Yepes and Andres Segovia, like these guys. It's like their guitars, the ones they have that high level, like a master guitar. And when you play that guitar, or people who know how to play music, I can't, you give me that guitar, BS. My nephew, he's an astonishing musician. He's like a young kid, and when he was 12 years old, he made a recording for me, and I was just listening to it in the background, and I thought it's Andres Segovia playing, and oh shit, that was my nephew playing. It's like the 12-year-old kid, just insane. So there are people who have, when you have that level of guitar, it can just take you so far into the realm of music. And I want you all to experience this in real life. And that should be everyone's baseline for fidelity and refinement and music adventure. And of course, I know there's lots of people who have different standards. For most people on YouTube, the only metrics is really power delivery. So when most channels talk about best sound and best amplifier, or this is best loudspeaker, they are talking about power delivery and usually about level 2. That is, and they are comparing level 1 and level 2. That's what 99% of the stuff you have on YouTube, that's what they're talking about. And going to level 3 and level 4, that's almost like no one is really talking about that. Very few people touch on it, and it's for you to experience. And to know about that, you have to hear it real life. And once you heard it real life, then look for those recordings that were made with those instruments or similar caliber instruments, and hear if you can hear that through your stereo. And if your stereo can deliver that experience to you, then that stereo is that level. And if your stereo is, let's say, like level 3, it means that up to level 3 you can hear that this is a crappy guitar or a better guitar, a fantastic guitar, but it won't be able to jump to level 4. So you won't get that deep emotional experience out of it. It will also just get stuck at level 3. And then you know that you have a little bit more to go with your stereo system. You can up the fidelity a bit. So fidelity for me is the ability to resolve the instrument's soul. Basically, that's it. So I hope that this is helpful for everyone. I will post the link to Brandon Ackers' video. I really want everyone to just look at that. It's not a short video, and even if you can't tell the difference, it is an extremely valuable experience to just watch it and listen to what they are saying about the instruments, what he's saying about the technique, and because as audiophiles, this is all about music, and Brandon Acker is revealing a huge portion about what music is, how creating music works, and especially if you love the sound of guitar, love guitar music, this is elementary education for you. It is a must. And so I hope that I helped for everyone on your quest towards discovering what high fidelity is for you. And this is a practical approach that I give to you, and not something cerebral and within the confines of a laboratory, or something that really no one knows what they're talking about, and it applies only within a certain limited set of criteria. And anyway, so I will expand on the measuring aspects of high fidelity at another time. So right now, just watch the video and enjoy it. Have an awesome day. Bye bye.